Hey, good morning, and welcome to Coffee Break on Coffee with Democrats. We have the greatest pleasure to have a good friend of mine, Representative Trish Ranson from House District 34 up in Stillwater. Trish, it's so good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's so good to see you. Thanks for the invitation to come on today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, and it's fun to be with friends, and I consider you to be a friend. We both grew up in the Wichita area. We're both transplants to Oklahoma. We love Oklahoma with all of our heart and with all of our soul, but you know what? There's always something about Wichita that we call home.
Yes. I will say, though, I did grow up in Ponca City. I was born in Wichita and I went to college in Wichita, but was raised in Ponca City.
That's correct. I forgot that little tidbit there, but hey, let's get right into it. What's going on in your neck of the prairie?
Well, I tell you, it's 53 days until the election. And so we are very focused on making sure that we keep the momentum that we have and get people registered to vote, get them excited to vote, and get them to vote on the day. And so that is what our focus is. 6 years I've been in the legislature and I've done three different elections. This is my fourth. So I think I'm getting pretty good at them. But it's been great in the sense that, being a legislator as well as a candidate, I have the number one way to keep my job is to do my job. And so I've been balancing out following constituent issues, working on interim studies, but also making sure that I'm knocking those doors and talking to neighbors. And the number one thing that I'm hearing on those doors is Ryan Walters. And so the fact that, my caucus has been adamant for the last year on accountability for Ryan Walters and making sure that our public schools are supported, they're funded, they're efficient. And right now, the State Department of Ed is none of the above. So
Right.
we're on making sure that we are focusing on that. And that is a message that resonates very loudly in my district. We are a education district, obviously, with OSU and career tech here. So making sure that we're trying to get that message across. And, as an educator, I believe that, we're dealing with political science, not rocket science. So educating folks on how civics works is really important, because then if we understand how government works and the fact that we are the government, that then we are less likely to be led astray by people who want to tell us something else. So that has been a big push that I've done in the last year or so, in the sense that I've created these events, which have been called People, Politics, and Pints, which is basically civics education for grown-ups, but with beer. And
There you
so
go.
teacher, and we have a different topic each time, and he teaches the topic. We have practice of how to talk about politics with one another, and then we ends up having question and answer. But after our toast, folks stick around and they continue conversing with their neighbors about policies and issues that they are concerned about, and that is a step in the right direction.
Well, I'm just gonna throw this out there for the people who are watching. Please share this. This is such an important time for us to be able to share these conversations. So please share it with your everybody on your social media. Tell them what we're doing right now. Tell them to come over here and watch this, because this is really going to be a very informative time. And Trisha's got a lot more to talk about too. So we're really excited to have Trish, Representative Ranson. She's a friend, so I call her Trish, but I should always say Representative Ranson. And that's the other thing that I want everybody to understand. When you see your representative, thank them for the job that they do. And she does such an awesome job. She has that education mindset, that education background. She is going to be somebody who is going to be able to challenge Ryan Walters. But guess what? You can't do it by yourself. We've got to have the support of a lot of other Democrats. And let's do everything we can to build up our Democrat base so that we can get more Democrats to help her. I mean, again, we need more help in the House of Representatives.
Oh,
So, talk to us more.
sorry, what I interrupted you.
No, please talk to us more about what you're doing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, what you were saying as far as we need more Democrats, we do. We need more balance. We have 20 Democrats in the House right now, with 101 as being the total population of the House of Representatives. So we have a severe minority. That does not mean that we are silent and so forth. No, we are actually very vocal, and we represent Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Stillwater and Norman. And so those are all education focused communities, and they are a big, huge piece of our state's economy. So the fact that, we may be a minority, but we do represent a lot of what brings money to the state. And so our voices need to be heard. With the election coming up, we are talking about how we need to make sure that we're ready to vote. There is another deadline before that. That's October 11th, and that is the registration deadline. So if you are not registered to vote by October 11th, then you cannot vote in the November election. So that's really important to make sure that you're checking your voter registration, making sure it's up to date, that you are registered to vote where you live. And so you can go to oklahoma.gov, and that will show you, and you can fill in your information and all of that information. But if you are not registered to vote, you can register to vote at that link. If you're from out of state, it's going to have to be a paper form that you fill. But if you have an in-state driver's license, you can go through online voter registration through that link as well. I will say, as a personal aside here, if you have a child that is under 18 and they're
Right.
going to turn 18 before or on November 5th, the election day, you need to get them registered to vote now. All 17 and a half year olds can register to vote before they turn 18. And this came in really handy in 2018 because my son turned 18 on election day. So we got him registered to vote before the election day. And then on election day, that was his first action as an 18-year-old, was to go and vote for his mom.
Isn't that special? It's not just special. It just
Oh, yeah.
warms your heart. It just, yeah,
But I have a lot of friends who have kids who are in college.
sure.
Both of my children are young adults now. And so my son is living in Oklahoma City. He is registered to vote in Oklahoma City. He has already voted in the runoff in the August election for their ballot initiative. So he already knows where he needs to go and all of that. My daughter is now moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and found out that in Nashville, you have to have a Nashville driver's license in order to vote.
Oh,
And
wow.
she doesn't have one. And so she had voted absentee while she was at college. And so her plan is to vote absentee now. But then I thought, you know what? Early voting for this election happens to be OSU homecoming week. What
Oh,
about
good.
home?
Yes, exactly.
She's going to come home, and she's going to be home for a few days. She's going to vote early. She's going to enjoy the homecoming parade and all the festivities. And so I think that's going to be a really great, memorable voting day.
And your team is going to be walking in the parade, right?
Oh, yes. The Dems are going to be walking. I'll be walking with them, as well as Robin Fuchsa, who's running for Senate District 21. And it's going to be epic. Yes.
Speaking of Robin, she's going to be joining us next week. So we're excited to have her come on and talk about her campaign, because we really need to get as many people out as we can. So Trish, help me out. I've talked to so many, and my memory. You have an opponent this year, right? Or not?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So you're still running. We need to focus on getting people to go to your website and talk about your campaign. So I've got it up on the screen so people can see it there, where they can go to ransonhouse34.com. Yes. And so go ahead, talk to us a little bit more about your campaign and what you're doing this year.
Well, absolutely. So my issues that I have of concern that I am campaigning on have been consistent since day one, in the sense that public education, obviously top of the list, access to quality health care, especially women's health, is a very big issue as it has developed in the last 6 years with state mandates and so forth, but also equal opportunity. The governor talks a lot about how he represents all 4 million Oklahomans, but yet we pass policies and we pass laws that that marginalize already marginalized communities. And so to me, that doesn't really mean that we represent all 4 million Oklahomans. We should make sure that what policy that we have fits for everyone, in the sense that it doesn't marginalize one to benefit another. And that has been kind of something that I've always come up with, because the sense that being a public school teacher, I don't get to choose who my students are in the classroom. And as a
Right.
representative, I don't get to choose who I represent.
Yeah.
People who I represent choose me. And so I have to do the best that I can for everyone in my district. So those are big issues that I've got going forward. But I've been talking about doing my job to keep my job. Finding a lot of disparities with women's health, but
Oh,
also
yeah.
access to childcare. We are
Right.
at a childcare funding cliff at the end of this month, when the federal funds are gone. And I brought up this issue back last session and said, this is coming. We need to plan for it. We've got the money. We've got over $2 billion in the sock drawer. So we got to
Right.
make that, like, well, we could use some of this money and put it towards support for our families, for childcare subsidies. And was told, oh no, that's too expensive. We're not going to do that. We're about to find out just how expensive lack of access to childcare really is.
Right, right. And it's unfortunate, you got to ask yourself this question: what are these people thinking? Because, the people on the other side of the aisle, because they're like, no, that's socialism. We're not going to support socialism. And it's really not. It's no different than paying for the highway that we have to get from Stillwater to Oklahoma City or anywhere else in the state. So it's crazy that we don't want to support people. We just want to support things in Oklahoma.
Agreed. And when it comes to investment, I mean, a good investment brings a better return. And
Yes.
the dollar that we invest in that 0 to 5 age range comes back 16 to 17 times higher. So
Right.
that is a really great rate of return. And if we can help families be stable, then we have young children who grow to be strong adults. And that's what we want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, you're planting the seed, you're
Yes.
seeing the seed grow. You want to keep the seed happy, healthy, and productive. That starts at a very young age.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, we want to continue that all the way through their education system, even beyond their primary ed into secondary ed, so that they can, continue to grow and better themselves. And just like myself, I wanted to do things that my parents never did. And my children want to do things that I never did. And that's what we want to do. We want to continue to perpetuate that. But even if people choose a different path, you've got a very good vocational school that is right there in Stillwater, that, again, it helps build the electricians, the plumbers, the carpenters. It helps the auto mechanics, diesel mechanics, the farm tractor mechanics, the people that are, work on ag. It's all important about giving that person everything that they need at a very young age to continue to grow. So let's talk about you've been knocking some doors.
Oh, yeah.
That's one thing that I hear all the time. You see Democrats knocking doors. Republicans are like, no, I don't care. You will never see a Republican knock on your door, but you will see Trish knocking on the doors there in Stillwater in House District 34.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an important part of that face-to-face, and probably the biggest reason why we're getting so many Democrats that are elected, but not everything. So let's talk about some of your experiences on that, because that translates to really good stuff whenever you have those conversations.
Oh, yeah. They're the best types of conversations, honestly, is to meet someone in their territory, basically, because you're on their porch. And I have to tell you, I mean, when I first embarked on this journey in 2018, I thought knocking doors was going to be the easiest thing of all the things that I had to do. And quite honestly, once that first day happened and I realized, oh, I'm standing on a stranger's door and I'm not supposed to be here, because I had my mother's voice in my ear. But I got over that. I mean, my husband at the time, that first day, he's like, well, what are you afraid of? And I'm like, well, I'm afraid someone's going to slam the door in my face.
Yeah.
And so Few doors down, sure enough, my first door slam. The man answered the door and he's like, Republican or Democrat? And I said, Democrat, and slammed the door. And I was like, hold up. I mean, you're registered Democrat.
Oh my gosh.
But it was funny because at the time I was just like so shocked. And then my husband was right behind me and he's like, well, got that out of the way. And like, yes, we did. And so ever since then, having conversations with people, and I've had folks that, they see me, Trish Ranson, I'm voting for you. I don't even have to say anything. And then I have people who are like, who have things to say to me, and
sure,
that's fine too. I don't have a problem with people sharing information that is true to them, but I may be harsh to me. I don't have a problem with that. I'm an educator. Kids say things to you all the time.
And so do parents.
But having those conversations, and having a conversation just a couple of weeks ago, a man in his 70s, he's registered independent, knocking on his door, and I asked him if there were any issues of concern to him, and he said yes. And he said abortion, and I'm like, okay, tell me more. And so, because I'm like, I don't know what he feels about it, because okay, so he did, and he says, I feel like it is a moral failing to have abortion in this country. And so I was like, okay, so I already realized, all right, we are opposite ends of the spectrum on the abortion issue.
Sure.
For different reasons, but we are. And so then we started having a conversation, and I started engaging him in things that we could agree on, like making sure that our children have access to quality and sex ed, so that way
right.
they know about their bodies, what's going on, so that they're protected. We talked about, social framework to make sure that the women that have children are supported.
Yep.
We talked about a lot of things, and it was interesting because he brought up an aspect to, it turned into a theological conversation, because he talked about how, he feels that America is going to have to suffer the wrath of God because of, and I just was like, wow. God made a covenant with humans at the flood, that he was not going to do that again. And,
right.
But, it was one of those, okay. And so then that spurred me to have a conversation with my preacher, because I was like, tell me more about this, because that was kind of like out of right field. I didn't really understand what his point was. And, that comes from that Christian nationalist ideology. But when I left his door, it was, I said to him, I said, here's the thing, you and I are on opposite ends of the spectrum on this topic, but we've already found things that we agree on. And I believe that, when the child is born, that we need to make sure that there are safeguards and safety nets in place to make sure that they grow up into functioning human beings that will have good jobs to care for their families, will pay taxes, all of those things. And any money that we spend needs to make sure that we hold people accountable to make sure it's spent correctly, because it's state tax dollars. And I said, I hope you will vote for me. And because those are the things that I'm focused on. And who knows, he might not, but I had a great conversation with him, and I'm so thankful that I did.
Right. Well, then, that leads us to the next part of what we need to talk about. And that's how people can help you with your campaign, because you're not on an island by yourself. You don't have unlimited funds. You don't have a money tree in your backyard. You don't have all the support you have within your house. You got to ask for people to help. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about that. I've got your Secure Act Blue up on the screen so people can see and actually go to that.
Yes. So donating money is number one, because everything that I do costs. So I have to make sure that I can fund that. So that's really important. Making sure that you are, like, what other things you can do? Things that are, we are a community. So talk to make sure that you and yours are all registered to vote. Make sure that you plan what you're going to do. Check to look at the calendar. Look at the calendar for election day. What is happening in your life? Okay. Like I said, early voting is homecoming weekend in Stillwater. So that is a big piece to what my voting plan is going to be. So if you make sure you set your voting plan, where are you going to be? Are you going to be out of town? Are you going to be at home? Will you make early voting? Do you need to request an absentee ballot? Really focus to make sure where you are, and then make sure the rest of your family does. Make sure that the people on your block are. Make sure that the people at your church are ready to go. All of this. November 5th is such an important election. We cannot risk missing it. And I tell you,
Right.
all have circles of influence. We may not have the circle of influence that Taylor Swift has, but
Yeah.
we can make a difference in our own community. And to see her engaging young voters is fabulous. We've got a voter registration day next Tuesday, the 17th. And I'm going to be at OSU we're going to be tabling with the OSU Dems to get people registered to vote. And it is important that our college students know that they can vote where they live. So
Right.
if they are from out of state, which we have a lot of out of state students at OSU, that they need to make sure they have a voting plan for election day. So really focusing on where are your circles of influence to make sure that we get everyone out, because Oklahoma, friends, is not a red state. We are a non-voting state. In 2020,
True.
55% of those registered to vote voted. If we get more people registered to vote and we get more people voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, we could turn this state blue. We could do it. We just have to get out and vote.
Well, we're going to end our conversation on that, because that is by far one of the best things that you can say on this. And folks, please support Representative Ranson. She is, I mean, she's up there. She's tenacious. You watch her on the floor of the House. She is engaging all of the Republicans. She's not alienating yourself from them, but she is engaging them, challenging them on their thought processes, making sure that they're thinking about what they're doing, because a lot of things that are done in the House are influenced by the Democrats. And I really appreciate, you have more responsibility too, because you're like second in charge of the House Democrats. So
yeah, I'm House Dem, so I'm basically the teacher of the caucus.
You bet. So it's great to have you on with on Coffee Break with Coffee with the Democrats, and you're such a good person. I just love being around you. I would like to be able to spend hours and hours with you, but I know you're busy, and I don't want to force my time on you. But I so appreciate you taking time to come on and just give us a little pep talk this morning.
Well, and if you're in Stillwater next, reach out, because I'll put you to work.
All right. We appreciate you so much. All right, folks. We won't be on the air this weekend, but on Monday, we're going to have the Edmond Democratic Women on Coffee Break. So come and join us on Monday. That's going to be an exciting time. So until next Monday, everybody, please have a great weekend. Have a lot of fun. Think about democracy, and we'll talk to you next Monday. And until then, please be safe. Thank you.